Welcome to Final Fantasy Ultra Champion Edition. Last time we tackled the Dark Cave. Today we are tackling the Time Tower. This is the gimmick of the first floor. There are a bunch of false warp tiles on the first floor. You do have to find the correct one. I'm demonstrating where it takes you out, so if you get the wrong one, mercifully, rather than being warped to somewhere crazy elsewhere on the floor and having no idea where you are thankfully just sent out back to the entrance where you can find the correct one. The correct one is down here, down and to the left from the entrance, and you can tell because of the question mark blocks right there. That's right out of the walkthrough included in the README. That question mark of blocks where I was standing is the right one. Going over to the next floor, we run into the Magitech armor, and the way I'll end this battle is we'll either run away or the soft spell will land the Petrify effect, and boom, there it is. A couple thousand experience for everybody. Yay, yay, yay. 2047 for everybody, just with the one Magitech armor, meant to be a buffed up version of Warmech. Thankfully, it is susceptible to petrification, and soft has actually been one of my favorite spells to use in this game. When I've been doing random battles with big type enemies, with bigger enemies, not with groups of enemies, but with, for example, some of those Ankleo type enemies or the Tyro type enemies, and of course the Magitechs there. So that hall kind of leads to nowhere, so I will go down this way and pick up the treasure. The SENTRYs, kind of a reference to the guard and sentry enemies. In the vanilla version, they are supposed to be robotic, I think, and they're weak to lightning, I believe. In the vanilla version, I think they are here too. They just hit rather hard. And here's a combo of the Grey Naga and Sentry type enemies. And I'm going to see if the Sleep Ring works. The Grey Nagas have some chakra casting abilities, so good that they use that in the first round. That's nice. I suppose that would be kind of infuriating if you get a couple of good smacks on them in the first round and then they cast chakra on themselves if they act later on. There's a status attack Mute. So ineffective there on the Nagas, and I believe I don't ever get sleep to land on the Nagas, thinking back here, but the Sentries are susceptible to it. The Hereward is our top axe, is the top axe in the game, so get ready. Here we go. Big time damage coming up from the Viking, 99 and hit percent 181, so that puts him up over another hit, so that's 6 hits now that he'll be delivering, and of course that's doubled to 12 when we get the haste effect on him, so get ready to see some big damage from that enemy, from that, from that party member. And Sleep Ring, yeah, very useful, not only as an offensive tool, but as a defensive tool when you're running from battles. And I will be running from almost all of them here, as you've seen a lot. I fight some of them, but just to save time and to save on resources going through these, I don't like to do a lot of random battle fighting. When I do these Let's Play series, I like to demonstrate what kinds of enemies you will see in these dungeons. And Sleep is ineffective on the... well, it's effective on the sages. It's ineffective on the other two, on the wizards or mages. I can't remember their name now. And I don't know if I get that to land on them ever, so we're going to head down here. A time mage, there we go. Okay, so it was ineffective on our time mages, but it can land on the sages. And these type of enemies, again, are pretty scary in this game, as they are in the NES version of this game. They're quite scary. The fighters and the mages, which share the kind of the dark elf sprite, the Astozi sprite. Here's a very surprising battle to run into. This is maybe a tongue-in-cheek battle to have programmed into this one, because almost all of them get away before we actually get away. So we miss our chance to get that 1 experience and 0 gold from a battle fought successfully where all of the enemies ran away. And of course, they make their morale check at the beginning of every single action that they make. That's what happens in this game. Every enemy, including bosses, makes a morale check before they check to do anything else in their action. And if their morale check, which is based on their morale score and a function of your party's level, I believe maybe the level of the lead character, but I can't remember for sure, plus a random number, so sometimes they will run away, but not always. But when their morale is as low as those enemies probably are, they would likely run away every time. But even bosses have a morale check, which is why famously when you watch the tool-assisted runs, you see you see them make Chaos run away if they have a White Mage. So like a single White Mage tool-assisted run, they just land Fear on Chaos a few times to lower his morale enough to run away from a low-leveled single White Mage. And if you want to check out a series of videos I did on Final Fantasy Restored, not Reconstructed. In that one, I did a 4 White Mages, 4 White Wizards run, and there the Exfer spell was able to land on Chaos, so I hit Chaos with Exfer, which is kind of like Dispel, which took off his immunity to the statuses that I could throw at him, including Fear. So I was able to land Exfer on him and then start hitting him with other statuses, so it was pretty funny. So I could, my White Mages could start delivering a bunch of nasty things on Chaos. So here's Ogopogo, who is a boosted up Kraken enemy, of course, as we would expect. We've seen a boosted Tiamat, we've seen a boosted Lich, and here we have a boosted Kraken. The wall spell will help us from any elemental stuff or status stuff incoming from Ogopogo. I'm not sure if it functions to protect from status attacks in here. I can't remember if I've observed that or not. And again, now that my characters are kind of buffed up, I'm not quite sure what to do with. Not sure what to do with myself. Oh, Temper 2 is not all targeting. Temper 2 is just a big boost. It looks like it's not an all targeting. I may have made a mistake on that. I think in the last video I mentioned it's all targeting. Invis 2 will help from the physical attacks of Ogopogo, and of course he can mute Sulla all day long. Still got 5 hits in there even with the Invis 2 popped up. So I will heal Sulla up and hope that Sulla does not get taken out before that Cure 4 can fire. Probably the prudent thing to do would have been to have more than one character target Sulla with Cure 4, because I'm definitely going to need that damage. As it is, I do get lucky. It does happen to remove his mute status as well, and it landed just before, there's Boom Shakalaka, just before Ogopogo delivered a physical attack that would have killed Sulla. So I got lucky on my timing there. Probably would have been prudent again to have both Esper and T-Hawk attempt to cast Cure 4 on Sulla. It would have wasted a spell charge, but it would have been worth it, I think. There's 8 hits, though, for over 1,000 damage. Meteo, as you can see, just with only hitting once, there's 11 hits for over 1,200 damage. With just hitting once, that's where spells really kind of fade in this game, is that spells don't develop multiple hits as you level up. So fighting characters start to quickly outpace magic users. Or at least offensive magic, I should say. Offensive direct damage magic really gets outpaced. And now I understand Meteo is not quite as strong as, here's an Anduril. And a Mjolnir. Mjolnir, sorry about my pronunciation. The Mjolnir is a hammer-type weapon. But interestingly, Esper, my paladin, cannot equip it. So it is a hammer-type weapon, but Esper cannot equip it. Luckily, T-Hawk, my cleric, can. So my paladin cannot equip it, my cleric can. I do make one more check there. Yes, that is correct. It is a class, at least in my observation, a class-specific weapon. So we've been finding lots of legendary weapons in these last couple of dungeons. Lots of legendary pieces of equipment that are named, and my inventory is getting rather full of them, and I need to clean my inventory out. It just always hurts me to drop or sell these things for 1 gold at the end of the game. Now, rather than take the exit out, I'm going to warp back to the beginning of this floor because there are things that I have not explored. So I fought what was supposed to be the final boss, but there are things on this floor that I need to explore yet, because I saw at least one more treasure room down there, and I believe there's another treasure room up and to the left. So I happened to find Ogopogo's room first, and I like to just set my party to run away and then use the Wake Ring on these battles with the Spectre-type enemies. They are worth fighting if you are grinding or developing, but they do require uses of a couple of multi-targeting spells, either that or quite a bit of time in just pounding them down with your characters with hammers. And so for the purposes of this video, I'm running away. And you see the time elementals there share the air elemental. We saw the dark elementals in the darkness cave in the last video, which you can check out. So we saw the darkness elementals, now we have the time elementals. Now, looking ahead, we will have the Holy Shrine, and I'm just guessing that there's going to be some holy elementals, and I don't know if they're going to take the shape of the Tornado sprite or of the more humanoid elemental sprite. The Tornado sprites can have more on the screen because they're a small sprite, so you can have 5, 6 plus of those sprites, and they can share the screen with more of the smaller type sprites. There's the room Ogopogo was in, but we're going farther. And I believe that room down there that we could just see before we got into this battle in the bottom right of the screen, back it up if you need to see it. Right down there, I believe that is the room that would be to the north and west of the entrance to this floor. Now, look what we have here. We have a secret inn. We have an interesting secret inn and then some hidden chests behind it because we're kind of walking over a closed room. So this kind of takes advantage of the room tiles. There we go, 50,000 gold. And run into the inn again. Now, it does cost 7,777 to stay and save, and I meant to probably hit B right there and not stay at that inn. Now, something I'm curious of, I did not test this because I wasn't sure about messing up my save file, is if it actually saves your progress there, and if it does save your progress there and you restart from that point, it probably, by my guess, would just start you outside of the dungeon. It does not start you at that point in the dungeon if you reset or died after saving right there. What makes me say that is that when you save at an inn in a town and you restart the game, you do not start at that inn. You start on the world map outside of the town. It would be very cool if you could have a real-life save point in these dungeons where if you were to die, you would start right back up at that spot, like a real later Final Fantasy save point in a dungeon would be, where you start at the save point just before the boss. And but it does function otherwise like a save point would, in that you can recover magic from your casting characters. Now, the high cost makes it a little less like one of those save points, but it's nice to have. It's nice to know that it's there, so that if you are kind of going through, I could use my spells a little bit more liberally. I need not be afraid of casting Pearl more often from my my white mage there, my cleric, not my paladin, or my high damage all targeting spells like Quake and Meteo from Zonk there. And again, I prioritized with Zonk the multi-targeting spells more than the single-targeting spells, simply for the purposes of grinding. So I went with Meteo over, I can't remember the name now of the single-targeting black spell, and I believe at level 7, I went with Quake, which is multi-targeting over another higher damage single-targeting black spell. And that's because my physical fighters have plenty of single-targeting big damage. So when I'm fighting bosses, I have plenty of single-targeting big damage from them. I don't really need it from my mages, especially when it is probably also going to be fading towards the end, though. Although maybe those big spells, because I didn't get them and I can't test them, maybe they do close to 1,000 damage. Although I'm guessing that later bosses have pretty high magic absorb, so it's probably going to be tough for them to get up into the 1,000 damage range. And because magic does not have a critical element that ignores that absorb and just gets right through it, that's another reason where my magic damage starts to really fade as you get into bosses, is that they'll have a magic resistance stat and there's no way to really get through that. I think the way this game kind of got around that is the fact that magic spells can double, so you have them cast and do damage in a range between like 10 and 40 instead of 10 and 20. So they can double. But even then, if the enemy has a high magic absorb, even doubling, you still get that absorb taken out of it. So a high absorb can really overcome magic damage doubling. And then multiple hits just compound that. And multiple physical hits, each of which has a chance to check for critical, really compounds that. So anyway, there's a step-up robe, the Merlin robe, to go with my Merlin staff for the Sage. So the Sage should be fully buffed up. And again, the missed observation of not putting the opal mail on my cleric character is an unfortunate oversight. So my cleric is not protected to the extent I'd like him or her to be. And I can just go ahead and use cure potions all day long on this. I can just use these all day. And so this just gets me back down here towards the entrance to this floor. So that wraps me all the way around. I believe I've explored all 4 corners of this upper floor. So I'm going to go ahead and fight this battle with the time elementals and the robot sentries, and I will not worry about using my magic spells, because I believe I will just exit out of here after this fight. So we have seen 3 of our bonus dungeons after this. I've picked up a lot of legendary gear, fought some legendary bosses, and we'll be ready to move on to the Temple of Fiends Revisited after the Holy Shrine. So things I'm looking forward to. The Holy Shrine is located where the Castle of Ordeals normally was, and I'm curious to see what kind of references to the Castle of Ordeals might be built into it. This is the first non-village inn that we've seen, non-town inn that we've seen in this game, but I understand that there are more in the Temple of Fiends Revisited. So interesting kind of mid-dungeon inns or mid-dungeon save points. Kind of proves that it wasn't impossible in this game for that to happen. Now, so that could open up some interesting things. Having a save point inside the dungeon could open up some interesting possibilities in terms of speed runs with resets, where you could get in, pick up some good stuff, for example, save and then reset to warp out of the dungeon. So say I had found everything, saved in that inn, and then just reset the game and reloaded it. I may have popped up out here with all of the gear that I had picked up, all of the experience and all the gear that I'd picked up. I'm not sure. Just something that popped into my head. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the Time Tower. If you like this video, feel free to please hit that thumbs up button. It helps other people find these videos to showcase the good work that's going on in the ROM hacking community. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more regular videos. I'm not sure what my next ROM hack will be after I finish this one, so I'm always curious to take input in the comments section. Let me know what you think about these and other videos on the channel. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. I always have a good time doing these and always have a good time hearing from you. We will see you for the Holy Shrine next time.